We're now joined by the co-founder of one of India's most successful travel platforms. Amidst global COVID pandemic turbulence, he's expanded his travel business, working with family and expanding to the UAE. Please welcome to the stage Prashant Pitti, co-founder of EaseMyTrip. Hi, Prashant.
Hi, Greg.
How are you?
Thank you. Yeah, COVID protocol.
Great to see you. Now, first of all, how did it come about, EaseMyTrip? Can you tell us?
Yeah, well, a little bit about the company. How did we start? It was year 2008. We actually started a very small travel agency to help people who are living nearby us. And, there were a lot of airlines which were coming during that time. So we started with the travel agency, and then soon we realized that there is a lot of things which, using technology, we can solve the problem of a travel agent. So the initial EaseMyTrip basically began with helping travel agent. And this is how we found our why. Because for almost about a year, we were a travel agent ourselves. And this is how we got a very good product market fit. And after a couple of years, we pivoted to basically serving regular consumers. And right now, EaseMyTrip is India's second largest travel portal.
So, Prashant, as you were growing in success from helping friends and family and things, did you then go to venture capital people and borrow lots of money and borrow from, investor angels?
So in year 2008, we did approach a couple of VCs, which were based out of India. Somehow, I could say in the hindsight, it was a good thing that we could not convince them to invest in EaseMyTrip at that time. And after a couple of years, we realized that in the hindsight, that was one of the best things which has happened to the company. So EaseMyTrip is actually one of the very rare consumer tech company which became a unicorn and got listed without ever raising any money from any VC, any PE, or any bank. We grew primarily via the love of all the consumers. We provided them the great service at the great price, and the company has always been profitable.
Incredible story. So that is quite unique, right? I mean, it's not often you hear that.
Yeah, I would think so. That at least in India, I know only of one more company which is a consumer tech company, and which has become decently big without ever raising any VC money. One is EaseMyTrip, and the other one is Zerodha, which many of you probably are aware of. So this has been the journey of EaseMyTrip, and I think now after we recently got listed about 6 months ago. We got listed, and now after burning the midnight oil for 13 years, keeping our head down, I could say that there is some level of success which our company has attained.
Now, what's unique as well is you work with two of your brothers.
That's correct.
What's that like, working as a close-knit family team?
Okay, I hope they don't hear my answer. Well, no, jokes apart, we have around 13, 14 divisions in our organization. And we have a very clear mandate of who is owner of which division. And, together we can consult, we can talk with each other. However, the onus of taking decision of that particular department goes to that particular head. And we keep changing those departments just to avoid the monotony between ourselves. So, honestly speaking, there is a lot of trust which is inbuilt, which comes as being, siblings. And with that trust, we allow people to take decisions on their own for the department they're looking at. And it is probably one of the reasons why what we have attained, unique part, even for Zerodha, they're run by brothers. So I don't know what's about it, but it's working very well for us.
So I think Rikant and Nishant will both be happy with that response to that,
I hope so.
that question. So you mentioned your journey and burning the midnight oil and things like that. I mean, there must have been some challenges along the way.
Of course. I could think for the first 3 or 4 years, there have been situations where we did not know whether we would survive the next day or not. There have been multiple situations. One situation I like to share, and it's not that we come from a very wealthy family. We come from a very humble background. whatever money, little money, about 5 lakh rupees is what we put in the business to start the company. In the beginning, I think near 2009 itself, one of the travel agents used fake credit card to make transactions worth 26 lakh rupees. Now that was a huge money, and we lost all of it because it was a fake credit card. And at that time, we did think about that. Hey, was it a right decision or a wrong decision to start an organization? But you could say the sanity or insanity prevailed, and we continue to push forward, leaving aside the challenges, and reach where we have reached.
So, what are some of the the factors that have developed your company into a unicorn company, a company of over $1 billion?
So we actually took 13 years to become unicorn. Our journey to growth was somewhat more sustainable, and compared to the other unicorns which we see are coming in 6 months, 2 years, 5 years time frame, right? But I think we got the unicorn tag by the market, not by the VCs. I think had we raised money, we got a lot of VC opportunity in year 2013, 14, 15, where by that time we didn't need that money. We were growing at 50 to 60% year on year, and that too profitably. So we didn't feel the need of sharing the equity for the cash. I mean, to be honest, at some level there was a lot of temptation to have that eye-grabbing headline that EaseMyTrip raised $100 million, EaseMyTrip raised $200 million. There was a lot of temptation. But then, the answer which we were looking for is that, what am I going to do with this money? I would probably put it in the FD because the business is growing without utilizing much money. And I think that was not the answer which VCs were looking. They were looking for us to burn more to grow faster. But we knew what we were doing is somewhat right, which is to grow more sustainably. The way we see this business is that whether you buy air ticket from us or from somebody else, or hotel or bus or travel, whatever, it's more of a commodity. Your cushions of air seat, your bed of a hotel does not really change whether you buy from one place or the other. And the basic of a commodity business is, you keep your cost extremely low, you provide value to the consumers, provide service to the consumers, and if you are doing so on a sustainable fashion, then you don't have to spend money on marketing. The internet will tell you a story. So we are not a very marketing-driven company. We grew primarily via word of mouth. That is how we have reached over here.
And how do you sit together with your brothers and you brainstorm diversification within your portal and your whole business?
So again, certain departments are somebody else's calls, right? So for example, right now I am heading M&A as a department. So where at EaseMyTrip we have already acquired 2 organizations, and there are many more which are upcoming. So if something as an innovation which has to come in the flight section, then we all can talk, but the final call is of Rekhan's, since he's looking at the flight as a product. Similarly, related to finance, the final call is of Nishant's. So this is how we have created a system within ourselves, and there is a deep amount of respect to who takes what call based on the department they have. So brainstorming, of course, happens together. However, decisions are solely taken by the owner of that particular department.
So Prashant, let me ask you, about, in a sense, one of the main topics that people who've dominated business for the last 2 years, which is the pandemic. Mm-hmm. It must have hit the travel industry extremely hard. I mean, it came to a sort of a grinding halt. Tourism, commercial flights, It's been. How did it affect you, and how could you be adding more subsidiaries during that time?
So, of course, I could easily say this, that for all the industries, pandemic probably hit the tourism industry as the hardest. And for FY20, our total turnover was about $600 million. For FY21, which was pandemic year, our total turnover remained around at $300 million. So the business halved because of the pandemic, and rightly so. However, one thing which EaseMyTrip was able to do extremely differently was our profitability did not diminish. We were EBITDA positive. We generated 88 crores worth of PBT in the organization, even in the pandemic year. And there are multiple things which our company did during the pandemic times, which helped us fare pretty well and be resilient even in the pandemic year, while one of our competitors during the pandemic time even actually went through a distress sale. So there are some things which we did which made us remain profitable even in the pandemic times.
Do you have any plans to expand to the UAE?
Oh yes, we actually very recently we actually created 6 subsidiaries. One of them is in UAE. So very soon we are going to be launching EaseMyTrip.ae, which is basically providing the same service as what we are providing to Indian consumers, to the people who are living in UAE and even Saudi Arabia for that matter. So we are extremely excited about it. See, we already have a technology in place. We already have great operational structure in place. Now, there are some incumbent players who are already serving this market. Now, our plan is to challenge the same way as what we have challenged in India by keeping our operational costs extremely efficient, by being an efficient company. I believe if we are one of the most efficient organizations in India, we probably will fare much more efficient for the companies which are based in developed nations like London, like US or Dubai or Singapore for that matter. So we want to utilize the same cycle of what learning which we have had and grow in this part of the world.
But would you use the same business model? Because obviously the Indian market is different to the UAE market. All the markets are different around the world, obviously. And how do you hone it down so that you get the results you want?
So of course there will be some changes in the entire business model, but however, the base remains the same, which is consumers when they are searching for holiday, flight, bus, hotel in any part of the world, they know that the service is going to be more or less the same. They are looking for a better price, whichever part of the world we talk about. So at EaseMyTrip, our strength has been to run our operation at extremely low cost, and that is the value in Dubai as well. I've been told that the current incumbent players charge convenience fees as an additional amount when people over here are booking their flights. So at EaseMyTrip, what we have done is we have not charged convenience fees in India to the consumers, and we grew as no convenience fees guys in India. Now I'm looking forward to go through the same growth cycle over here and the other parts of the world.
So what in particular has attracted you to the UAE market?
So of course, almost 30% of the entire travel for the UAE is actually related to India. So there's a huge amount of customer base which is common. And with that commonality, the brand could be very easily, in fact, for all the 6 subsidiaries which we are starting, the first one which internally we have understood and decided is that we will start the Dubai UAE subsidiary as the first one. So it's the commonality of the user base which is definitely going to help and kickstart the business in very rapid pace.
I get the feeling we might have some questions from the floor, from our wonderful audience. Does anyone have a question they'd like to ask Prashant? Could we get a microphone over to our guest there? Microphone's coming now. And if you would just like to say your name and...
My name is Deepak and I am the Managing Director of Power Dynamic. Actually, I would like to know that in last you said that EaseMyTrip is growing from 500,000 Indian rupees to now unicorn. So we have also observed and heard that a lot of traveling companies are bankrupt also. So what is your exactly USP? How you make it successful in your EaseMyTrip? Because recently we also found that so many good companies also is run away or bankrupt. So just I would like to hard story from you.
Yeah, I mean, we have about 5 or 6 competitors in India with whom we are competing our business. So at the face of it, it looks like a crowded market, and in fact, when EaseMyTrip was born, MakeMyTrip, ClearTrip, Yatra, iBibo, they all were existing and they all had hundreds and millions of dollars in funding. So in fact, one of the reasons why we could not raise money when we started was that, hey, why would people use you when already there are so many? And to be honest, I do not think that they were wrong in their analysis. The VCs who chose not to invest in EaseMyTrip in year 2008, they were right in their analysis. We exist primarily because of our hustle. We exist because we chose to do something which I think most of the internet companies probably do not approach business that way. We grew very slowly and steadily in the first 6 to 7 years. Right now, we are growing at 50% year on year. Our GMV, our PAT, PBT is growing more than 50% year on year. But for the first 6 to 7 years, the growth was very slow. In fact, you could call it as excruciating slow. Now, we were able to go through that patch because we did not have somebody pressurizing us to make the growth, which could have come at the cost of being a loss-making company in the future. We were patient in our approach, we were disciplined. For example, we in the last 13 years have spent 70 crores on marketing put together, right? While our biggest competitor spends 1300 crores every year on marketing. And yet we are growing at triple the pace of them. The reason of the growth is primarily because we are known in the market as no convenience fees guys. Now, and it's not that the money which our competitor is burning, they of course offer a lot of discounts to the consumers, right? So at times they are cheaper than us. Now this is what we really believe in, that consumers who are using EaseMyTrip, it's not that they are not aware of the discounts my competition is offering. They of course know all the brand names we're talking about, right? And the days when our competition is offering crazy discounts, I'm also happy that my customer goes and utilizes those discounts. I'm fine with that. But we think that our consumers think of us as a comfort food. They may go and have Italian one day. They may go have a fancy Chinese one day. But they think of EaseMyTrip as a comfort food where at least they will not be paying convenience fees ever whenever they come to EaseMyTrip. So this is what is the strategy we have been following since last 13 years. And I think the patience is what has paved the way for EaseMyTrip.
Great. Thank you for that question. We have another question coming up right now. Thank you very much. We just get a microphone to you.
Thank you. Good evening. I am Dr. Pawar from Rajasthan, Jaipur, presently Chancellor of a university,
Very nice.
but having served as Secretary Tourism Government of India. My simple question is that with the pandemic, our industry, that is tourism industry, has been the worst hit.
Absolutely.
Especially the foreign tourist arrivals into India. They are
Correct.
almost all-time low.
Absolutely.
Now, as a travel service provider, what steps you intend to take to promote what you call interstate tourism, promoting that segment of Indian tourism so that we don't have to depend on foreign tourist arrivals for our industry to be buoyant and to be...
No, thank you for presenting that question. To be honest, it is of extreme importance to a company like us, knowing that there are so many tour guides, there are so many vendors whose livelihood is dependent on tourism, right, in many places of the India. So at EaseMyTrip, as soon as the first pandemic hit, this is the first thing we did. We actually created a pledge page at EaseMyTrip. And since we know who are the people who actually travel abroad on frequent basis, so we personally approached those about 1.5 million user base and made them take the pledge. We presented them with the list of 500 ideas which India is not told yet. For example, one of the places is Javai, very close to Jaipur. Not many people know about Javai, the leopards which are roaming freely in Javai. So we presented them with the 500 different ideas and we made them take the pledge that as soon as lockdown opens up, they would basically travel within those 500 places first, 2 of them first, and then travel abroad. And we were successful in making 58,000 people take that pledge. Now this I think was something we did in the month of June, and so people have taken pledge. I don't know how many of them are going to be sticking to that, but this is the best we could do in educating people about the places which they may not have heard about India. See, when you're traveling, what you're looking for is actually novelty, right? Now there is so much of novelty which is present in India, it's just that we are not aware of. And those are the novelties which we are trying to propagate during the pandemic times.
Great, thank you very much. We have one more question, I think, before we end this session.
Please.
If we can get the microphone over to our next guest who wants to ask a question.
So shall I go ahead?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Utkarsh. I'm the founder of an edtech company called Network Capital. I was wondering what your first 100 days were like when you started, and this doesn't seem like an industry which is a blue ocean. There's heavy competition, the margins are low. How did you go about structuring the business? And I get the low convenience fee, it's an awesome thing, but I'm sure you had to innovate in terms of processes, getting the product right.
Absolutely.
I'd love to get a glimpse of that.
So that's actually a great question. This was one thing which we did very differently, which really helped us survive the first 2 to 3 years. See, first 2-3 years are extremely excruciating. Had we been fighting with the Make My Trip, Clear Trip, Yatra, when we were born, I'm very sure I would not have the honor to sit in front of you. We were serving travel agents for the first 3 years, which was actually a blue ocean market. There were not that many people who were serving travel agent. And how we were able to serve them very well, as for the first year, we were a travel agent ourselves. We knew the exact pain point a travel agent goes through, and we were solving those pain points using technology. So thankfully, we had a very strong product market fit. And for the first, not just 100 years, I would say for the first 1,000 days, no, not just for the first 100 days, for the first 1,000 days, which is 3 years, there were only 3 salesmen in the company, we 3 brothers. So we divided the area within ourselves. I personally must have visited 2,000 odd travel agents personally to tell them our story, what our product is, and get their businesses on board on EaseMyTrip. So it was a lot of running around. We heard a lot of no's, of course. No denying we had to wait hours to meet a travel agent just to get to meet them. So the business was of course tough. There was no easy thing which was handed to us over the platter. But good thing was that we were not fighting the big guns during the first 100 days or even 1,000 days.
Great. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your questions. We've run out of time, I'm afraid. But Prashant Pitti, really appreciate the time with you today.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Really
Pleasure's
good.
all mine. Thank you.
And thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.